Today we're going to consider 2 nominees, 6 bills, and 38 General Service Administration resolutions. We'll consider 3 of the GSA resolutions that we noticed on Friday at a later date. Senator Carper and I have agreed that we will begin voting at 9:40. At that time, I will call up the items on the agenda. We'll not debate the items on the agenda while we are voting. Instead, we'll debate the items on the agenda before we begin voting at 9:40. I will also be happy to recognize any members who still wish to speak after the voting concludes. We'll consider 2 nominations, Rob Wallace to be Assistant Secretary of Fish, Wildlife, and Parks at the Department of Interior, and William Kilbride to be a member of the Board of Directors of the Tennessee Valley Authority. The full committee held a hearing on Rob's nomination earlier this month. The Subcommittee on Clean Air and Nuclear Safety held a hearing on Mr. Kilbride's nomination last week. I'd like to thank the Chairman of the Subcommittee, Senator Braun, for holding the hearing and assisting the full committee in considering Mr. Kilbride's nomination. Both nominees are well qualified and will bring a wealth of experience and expertise to these important positions. I'd like to say a few words about Rob Wallace. I've known Rob for over 35 years. Without question, Rob's the right person for the job as the Assistant Secretary for Fish, Wildlife, and Parks. Once confirmed, Rob will oversee the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service and the National Park Service. His confirmation will be especially important because neither of these agencies have Senate-confirmed leadership at this time. He'll play a central role in managing fish and wildlife for the American people. Stakeholders from across the political spectrum agree Rob is an outstanding choice, and I urge my colleagues to support his nomination. We'll also consider 6 bills. Senator Heinrich's bill to amend and reauthorize the Morris K. Udall and Stuart L. Udall Foundation Act. Senator Braun's Restore the Harmony Way Bridge Act. Senator Duckworth's Route 66 Centennial Commission Act. Senator Collins' Reviving America's Scenic Byways Act with a substitute amendment. Senator Capito's PFAS Release Disclosure Act with a substitute amendment, and Senator Booker's bill to transfer certain funds from the Clean Water Revolving Fund of the state to the Drinking Water Revolving Fund of the state. I would like to say a few words about the PFAS bill. We will report a broad bipartisan package to address pollution from a large class of chemicals known as PFAS. This pollution is an urgent concern for many communities and states across the country. This spring, the committee held 2 hearings on this issue. In March, we heard from top officials at EPA, as well as the Departments of Defense and Health and Human Services. In May, we heard from state water regulators, water utilities, and others who are struggling to deal with these contaminants. The Barrasso-Carper substitute amendment to the Capito bill requires industrial manufacturers and users to disclose to the public when they release these chemicals into the environment. The legislation also requires EPA to set within 2 years a national primary drinking water regulation for, at a minimum, 2 of the most toxic PFAS substances. The Barrasso-Carper substitute amendment is identical to an amendment that Senator Capito, Ranking Member Carper, Senator Gillibrand, and I filed to the National Defense Authorization Act last week. I want to thank those members for the leadership on this issue. Our bipartisan package will go a long way to helping the federal government and the states combat this pollution. Lastly, we will consider 38 resolutions to approve prospectuses providing for GSA, General Services Administration leases. I'll now turn to Ranking Member Carper for his statement.